One. Hi there, and welcome to our presentation. I'm Greg Gillian.
And I'm Gillian Davis. Hey everyone, thanks for coming along, and a big thank you to Paul as well for setting this up and getting this summit going and available, so which is pretty awesome. So we're here today to talk you through how to stay fit for life.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's gonna be fun. So first of all, I just wanted to just put you in the place of thinking about your vision, because what often people say they want is they want to lose weight, etc., etc. They want to be a certain weight, a certain dress size, certain clothes size. But actually, the reality of it and what we found with working with people is people want to have more energy, more vitality. They want to be able to run around with their kids or be able to do their favorite sport without, dying from, from the exertion. People want to be more productive at work and not always feel like, they were being dragged down. They want to be healthy. And a lot of people we've worked with have tried pretty much every diet going, right? If you Google it, there are, it must be 70, 80, 90, if not more diets out there in the world. And you've probably tried all of them. Yeah, Slimming World, Weight Watchers, etc. But the time is now to kind of look at your diet as your lifestyle, not just I'm going on this plan for now. And obviously, I'm assuming you want to look good naked or in clothes. So you want your clothes to feel better, because I think from a physique and, when your body feels good, your mind is good. And as I mentioned before, yeah, everyone wants to be a lot more productive so that your work becomes more efficient. You get more of an income actually at the end of it. And then you still got the energy to go home and be present with your family without feeling like you want to sleep all the time, which is, I think, what a lot of people really want.
Absolutely, Greg, absolutely. So a little bit about us. I'm going to just kick off. So who are we? And why are we here talking to you today? So I'm Gillian Davis, and I have been in health and fitness for over almost 4 years now. But basically my background though is as a scientist. So I have been through a long career working in public health as well as private health, with a science background in microbiology and biomedical science. So at the minute, obviously with everything that's going on with the pandemic, I have to say part of me is still intrigued in it, because that's basically my background. I would have been very much involved in respiratory testing, respiratory illnesses, outbreaks, and so on and so forth. So it does pique my interest a little bit. But right now, my main focus is about helping people take responsibility for their health and actually start to feel and live as amazing as they want to, because it is possible for so many people. Again, I have my own history of being, basically I have been through maybe 9-10 different diets over 25 years. I really threw myself into the all or nothing mentality when it came to my body composition, my weight loss. So I do have that understanding behind it all about thinking that it would make me feel better, make me feel happier, make me feel like I was enjoying my life a lot more. I do love my fitness. I do know the benefits of it. Basically, I always say that once you feel good about yourself, you're from a position of strength. You're strong in your body, you're strong in your mind, and that just ripples into so many other areas of your life as well. So it's always a foundation. Your body is really the first place that you should look at, and if it's not in check, then other things will start to fall out of line in your life. So that's my whole ethos of it. First and foremost, priority in your health starts with yourself, and really that's where I want to take it from there. So over to Greg.
So my name is Greg Gillian, and I've been in the fitness industry for about 10 years. But I also have a corporate background where after I did my sports science degree, I decided to go into management. Okay, so worked for some fairly big companies, Car Firm Warehouse and And then I went into the NHS, did lots of senior management work in there. And this is obviously, with the whole pandemic thing, I kind of feel almost, I'm really intrigued by it all, because I used to work with some respiratory medicine physicians and stuff like that. So I would have seen all of this kind of stuff happen, on a very, very, very small level. But now it's pretty crazy, right? So, but behind that, I was always coaching ladies specifically. So 99% of my clients are women who want to lose weight, get fit, get happy, get strong, and get confident. And it's about, beginning of the year, me and Gillian decided to team up. I had a small podcast, and Gillian jumped on board, and we work together now to really push that out to help as many people as possible. And I think we both have a very similar outlook on things. We're more about the behavior, because we've all tried diets. I've tried paleo. I've tried putting butter in my coffee in order to help me, lose weight. And it never worked.
No.
Okay, so through all the lessons I've learned through the nutrition course that I've done and all those kind of things, I'm glad I've got the gift to now help people, because I've been overweight, but I'm now have the gift to help people get fit, strong, and healthy, no matter what happens in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's me. So yeah, we're excited to do this.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So today we're going to just start. So a lot of the times whenever people want to look about getting fit and healthy, they dive into what's the workout, what the nutrition is, and just want to follow maybe something that's just laid out for them. Don't know whether it's going to work for them or not, but just follow it to the letter and let's see what happens. And again, I think, Greg, both of us will probably say that from that background, we know that that's a very, very small chance of that working from that many people. Really, there isn't really, it doesn't set you up for success in that way of thinking. And more times than enough, people feel they either stop or they really struggle to maintain any sort of results that they get after the end of that. So we always talk about, thinking about what it is that you actually want to achieve from the outcome. So what is it, and what will success actually look like for you? So what will you want to look or feel, or what is it that you want to be able to do that you're not doing now? Really get into what we say, what's the real reason, what's the motivational drive, the internal motivation that lights you up when you think about what it means to you to do that and what that success will look like for you. The other thing is to consider is like, how much energy have you got to commit right now? Now I talk about energy, it's not just kind of physical energy, but I always talk about energy as time as well. How much of it have you got to commit to what you actually want to achieve right now? Because to really get some results, yourselves, whether it's in business, whether it's in a project or a career, or even a house building project, or even your family, if you're starting a new family, all that there takes a hell of a lot of time and focus to be able to give it your full attention, so that we're not spread out thinly over many different areas and basically half-assing things. Then if we don't really focus in one area, we don't get the results, and the sustainable results as well, because that's what we keep talking about. It's always about the long term. So it could be very easy for us to talk about how to get fit and healthy in the lockdown, or as only now, but absolutely, it's about fit and healthy for the rest of your lives. Why not? That's what it's there for, and that's the best way to think about it, is the long term. So then we come back, why do you want to change? So why is there a real desire to do this? Is maybe you've had some sort of test results come back that have given you a bit of a wake-up call. Maybe you're just thinking about or seeing other people in your lives that are just really starting to struggle. Maybe they're older in their lives now, and you're just thinking, it's time to do something a little bit more. And again, it's almost like that wake-up call that we get. What is it that's making you tick right now? What is it that's really making you stop and think about why you're doing this? And how we then decide from that. So we want to paint a picture of the future. What is the future looking like for you, and what is it that you actually want that to be? How is it going to look and feel for you? So really, this is like a visualization technique, and they've used it in many of the top athletes in the world and competitors and everything. They use this sort of visualization technique. They work through exactly what it is they want that particular race to look like, or maybe that golf swing to look like. They work through it in their mind and they can see it. And that's exactly what we do as part of it. We want to see, what does that maybe ideal day, that dream day look like for you? And then we start to reverse it back and reverse engineer it. So back to where you are now, and then start to build in the steps that you need in order to get you to that point. So, and that's really how we go about deciding what your outcome should be.
Awesome. Yeah, especially that why. So it's so important for people.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's the foundation to, if you haven't got a really clear understanding of what that is. And a lot of people say, oh, I would just want to lose weight. And you're like, well, why is the weight important to you? What does that mean to you, losing weight? And why is it important to you? And, one thing that we talk about is like 5 whys. So asking yourself that question 5 times. It's almost like you can imagine a Russian dolls, can't you? So you had those Russian dolls that you open it up and then you take another one out and another one out and another one out. So it's that sort of analogy that I like to think of. And that's what getting to your why really is. There'd be a real deep emotional, shall I say, reason at the bottom, if you like, that you need to tap into in order to do that. So
yeah, that's amazing. So I guess what then comes onto it is the biggest thing that people will ask us is, well, what's my diet going to be like? Am I going to be low carb, high carb? Am I going to be high fat? Am I going to be like keto? And we often attach all of these labels to how we eat, right? We're kind of like, well, I have to be vegan because of something you read, something your friends told you. Often it's that conversation around the printer that says, well, I've lost weight using this system, but actually what you got to remember is is it right for you? So one of the big things I think we're a big proponent of is not to cut out any food. Like, unless, and I have a theory, and I something I put into practice, that there's generally only kind of 2 or 3 reasons why you should never eat a food. And one of them is it makes you sick. Kind of, if it's something, if you get a reaction in your gut or you break out in hives or something, probably not something you should eat. 2 is just be careful of things that that you kind of binge on. So I know I need to have wine gums out of the house, or else I'm going to eat 600 calories worth of wine gums. So I just try and keep them out of my house as much as possible. And then often 3...
minor squashies.
I know what to get you when you come over.
Oh, yeah.
I'll get you some.
Yeah,
So
cool. Don't.
make you bring me some wine gums.
Yeah. Okay. First swap.
I think that's a good deal.
Yeah.
And then the third one is often things you really, really hate. So there's no point starting a diet and it's all going to be made up of things that you hate, because you won't do it. You won't follow through. And as Gillian mentioned earlier, we're about the long-term sustainability. And most often people can't do a diet for more than 2 weeks before their willpower breaks. And we're going to talk about willpower in a lot more detail later, but set up a diet where you're going to have foods you're going to enjoy. However, you need to understand what your body needs in terms of the calories that you need. So a very quick science lesson: all foods have energy. And there'll be some people who don't believe in calories and some people who don't, but ultimately when you look at weight, obesity, health, there's always a calorific value attached to that. So you need to understand how much you can eat for your needs, and that might be to lose weight, to maintain your weight, or even to gain weight because you might want to put some muscle on, right? So I think people need to understand they have a calorie level, and there's ways to calculate that. So we take your basal metabolic rate and generally then the activity that you do every day to make sure that we understand, right, okay, so Gillian needs this much energy, So then we look at how we can make your nutrition on a day-to-day basis hit those calorie needs. And if we want to get Gillian to lose some fat, then we'll drop the calories a little bit under. Don't want to go too far, just slightly under.
Mm-hmm.
I think the big mistake is people go, oh, I'm going to just drop it to here, lose weight really fast, and then before you know it, they're face deep in chocolate and their calories are up here. So the next thing then is to create structure. So structure is a real big thing. I think people forget about structure, and structure creates freedom, because if you know what you're going to have, you're going to be able to make better choices. So a little bit more planning is definitely a massive win for people. So don't try and wing it. Look at your lifestyle. Look at when you do things, fit the meals in around what you do, rather than trying to say, well, I'm going to do intermittent fasting, but you know that you don't actually eat your first meal until 2 o'clock. You're going to be very hungry. You're going to eat a lot of food and you're going to be very stressed. And then the next thing, I guess, is willpower over habits. Like, I want you to be able to build up the habits as a skill. And we're going to talk more about it later.
Mm-hmm.
But if week 1 might be eat more protein. Okay. So maybe, you're going to go for two pieces of protein every day as a start, because most people, let's be honest, don't eat enough protein. So that's just for people watching. That's your fish, your meat. And if you're vegetarian or vegan and you're looking at things like tofu, beans, lentils, and those kind of things. But making sure you have at least a palm size if you're a lady, 2 palm sizes if you're a man, at all of your main meals. And that could be week 1. Week 2 might be, well, let's reduce the snacking. So we've mastered the protein. We're starting to get up to speed on that. Next week, let's just reduce the little snacks in between. So maybe we should go from having 3 snacks a day to 1. We crack that and then we move on. So for us, it's about making sure that you've got habits that you can build and you can keep winning at, because when you fail, there's this guilt kicks in, etc. So we want you to keep winning every week. And the last one, I had to leave this one in there. Mm-hmm. People, you can eat carbs. They will not make you fat. Okay. So carbs have been the basis of diets around the world forever and ever since time began. And carbs inherently won't make you fat. But if you remember earlier, understanding your calorie needs, and you can adjust your carbs and your fats ratio within your diet. So don't be afraid of carbs. It won't make you fat.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that just lends itself to kind of one of the key things about lots of people have a history of being on not diets for a long time. It's just all these sorts of beliefs and rules just kind of mar the real data, the real science behind it all. It's they just kind of blur the edges about what is actual biology and what is just marketing to sell something. And I think that's where a lot of people have maybe been bought into different ways of eating, because at the end of the day, every diet is based on the same principle, and that's always around about managing calorie needs, energy needs, basically the amount of energy that you consume. And that's what all diets, that's what the basis of them all are around. How they call that and how they label the different foods and things like that, that's obviously specific to that particular plan or strategy or diet plan, whatever you want to call it. That's all it is. It's a protocol that somebody follows. However, at the end of the day, really just understanding the food and how it works is usually the biggest breakthrough for people, to really let go of what's good and bad foods, because there's a lot of judgment held around that, isn't there? Greg, you probably find that as well.
Oh, definitely.
And we judge ourselves basically because we think that we are bad for eating bad foods and good for eating good foods. Yeah. So absolutely. So, and that does happen a lot. And that's and again, that's the whole understanding. It's that education, that knowledge behind understanding the science a little bit. Okay, yeah, you don't want to be have a degree in it or go to a PhD level in it. That's fine, but have the foundation knowledge and understand the basics of it. So that's a big part of kind of how we educate people as well. So
Definitely.
cool.
Definitely. Awesome. So let's talk about exercise.
Yeah. So another big part, we talked about nutrition and then exercise, obviously. So nutrition is to fuel our bodies every day, fuel our activities, what we're doing, even our brains like use up lots of fuel every day. So we need to replenish it. However, one thing you can't do is just keep fueling yourself, but not actually expending that energy, because how I like to put it, if you imagine a wardrobe that you keep putting lots and lots of clothes in, yet you never declutter it, it'll just start to expand and pop out. So it's the same with ourselves. We bring all this food on, we keep eating it, whatever. But if we don't expend it, we just accumulate it over time and over time. And that's what our energy, our fat stores are. Basically, it's just an accumulation of excess energy. So what we need to do is obviously make sure that we move enough so that we're expending it. One thing I like to point out with exercise, though, it's not about weight loss per se with exercise. It's more about muscle activation, muscle stimulation when it comes to exercise. So well, there is a part of exercising which is just your basic daily movement, not specific prescriptive exercise or exercise classes, but how much you just generally move on a day-to-day basis is going to really help with weight management, and also give you a baseline fitness. But but exercise is really around about just muscle stimulation, and it's also around about just the more we stimulate our muscles as well, that really helps with just balancing out hormones, balancing out our mood, which are governed by our hormones as well, balancing out our hunger levels, balancing out our sleep, our immune system, everything else within our body. So that's one thing I would always say, that really, if you do feel that your mood and your emotions or you're not feeling your best, then absolutely exercise is going to be your best tonic right there. So okay, but how do we do it? How do we get into it? Some of you maybe watching this and you probably were in a really good flow once you were in that kind of work routine, and maybe all of it's gone crazy for you right now and you haven't been able to re-establish a sort of routine for yourself, or a bit of a habit. One thing that Greg, you'll hear us talking about all the time, is just starting off with really something simple that's going to make you feel like you've taken a step forward. So for people, depending on what it was that you did before, that could be just getting up and getting out for a walk. Whether it's a walk every day, a walk every other day, just taking what I like to call a +1 strategy. So +1 from where you are, what's that one extra step that you could do that brings you closer to actually being more active? So maybe you're someone that hasn't walked at all, so could you just do a 10-minute walk today? So really, really simple, starting off nice and slowly and building up that way. So, and then as you become, say you've done that for a week or two, then you could start to increase it, maybe going for longer walks, doing walks every day, whatever it is for you. The other part of exercise is, like I said, is about our muscles and making our muscles work. So we are built and designed to move. We have muscles, we have joints. These are there to make us move. So, they're not, there's no other function for these whatsoever. So, and we've got to keep it in check. We've got to keep using it, because there is one part of fitness that if you don't use it, you do lose it over time. So, you may see people that haven't, maybe even lifting their hands above their head. I've seen people with their shoulders starting to decline the function in their shoulders because they don't lift them, don't use the muscles enough. So our bodies do start to lose it over time. One great way to do that is strength training, right? Is to really just go through a strength training program that will actually at least 2 times a week. 3 times, I think, is the sweet spot. Some people can do it for 4. Minimum is definitely 2 for most people. So But absolutely depends on how you program it out as well. Yeah, as well. So I know Greg will probably fill in more on that there. So
That's where I can geek out, but I'm not
yeah,
going to do that
that's his
today.
thing.
Contact me later if you want me to geek out.
So, or you can geek out now all the way.
I think there's a couple of things as well from a health point of view. You mentioned there's a big risk of sarcopenia, and people, as we've been in this pandemic, we've been sat around not doing anything, and that rate of sarcopenia, so sarcopenia just means muscle loss, is going up like so. And as you age as well, there's another thing called osteopenia, so that's bone density loss. So that's going up as you age. So the only way to maintain it is to start lifting either heavy objects, if you're lucky to have them during a pandemic because they're hard to find, or you start to move your body and add resistance through your body weight. And there's obviously millions of weight bands, etc., etc., etc. But I think it's such a key thing. And then for metabolism as well, is it's so massive for your metabolism. I think if I'm rightly, a pound of muscle is an extra 6 calories an hour. So if you just extrapolate that, then obviously it's a massive metabolism booster.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one key way to actually ramp up your metabolism. It's the only way to actually do it is through exercise. Yeah, and one thing then as well I'd point out with the strength training. So absolutely, it's a great way to boost health for absolutely everybody is to do strength training. But I would even highlight more so as well for women, to maintain, certainly going through menopause. Strength training is a really great way to ensure that your bone density is maintained, because as we know, as there is a high chance of osteoporosis after menopause for women. So because it's a weight bearing exercises, it's not impactful, so it doesn't do lots of repetitions through your joints, so it's not impact, but it is weight bearing, so it is a really great way of increasing bone density there, and make sure your bone health is good, as well as your joints and your muscles. So it's all good, absolutely. But to actually do strength training, so one key thing that we talk about with strength training is compound movements. And what we actually mean by that is there are 4 kind of basic movements that our body likes to do, that we are, by doing those movements, we actually use up lots of different muscle groups in our body. So we call it the big bang for your buck movement. So you don't have to do lots of different types of exercises, lots of different types of movements. You could build these in, and you'd really get a brilliant workout just by using these. So, and that'll also as well, these translate into normal everyday function as well. So we're talking about squats, we're talking about deadlifts and hip hinges, we're talking about push exercises, so being able to push things such as press ups or push ups. I think in the US they call it press ups.
Push ups.
And then also being able to do pull exercises, so being able to use our back muscles such as rows, pull-ups. I know they may sound quite high intensity for some people, but brilliant exercise. If you can master a pull-up, your body is going to thank you for it big time. So those are the kind of 4 key movements that we would always build into a strength training program, and every strength training program should have those as the fundamental movements, basics in it. And then you can build in other little exercises around it. Whenever the big muscles are a bit more fatigued, then you can bring in other kind of smaller muscle groups into that there. So you're talking maybe in my head, I'm using the example of like a bicep curl. So you're using the biceps on the front of your arms, and then maybe the triceps on the back of your arms, as an example. Then after that, so as well, when we come to looking at the strength training, we want to talk about the full body session. So we absolutely, to make the most of your time, as well when it comes to strength training. So everyone has a fear that exercise just takes hours and you have to dedicate so much time to it. So whenever we're doing strength training, we really program out full body sessions. And I certainly know that whenever I'm doing it, it's like 3 workouts a week for anyone, but they're all full body sessions as well. And how we can kind of minimize the time that it takes to do them, we tend to pair an upper and a lower body exercise together. So what that means is that if you're doing an upper body exercise and then you have a lower body exercise, you're just being able to use different muscle groups in quick succession. So it just means that you don't need to put a rest in between those. So you can move between those two exercises quite quickly. What we call a superset, for anyone that wants to know that.
Definitely. Yeah, having those two exercises back to back is awesome. Really good way, press ups and squat.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, and remember as well, like some people fear, get scared of that they're really difficult to do certain exercises. I know from a woman's perspective, the thought of doing press ups is like, women can't do it. Absolutely, they take time. They do really, they are difficult. You're trying to push your whole body through your arms, basically. So they are exercises that do take a lot of strength, but very quickly you can build it up by just being able to find a level that you're at, being able to change, maybe the angles of how you're doing your push-ups. So for anyone that's starting out, you could do push-ups against a wall, and then as you build up and develop more, you can certainly then bring that push-up closer to the ground as you go, maybe onto a table, maybe onto a chair, and then eventually onto the ground. So it's about finding your level and what you're capable of doing it. So, but then on to the next point, and I kind of touched on it at the start. We kind of focus on the exercise as a way to just burn off the foods that we're eating. But when it comes to like doing strength training and that, we don't actually use up that many calories whenever we're doing strength training. So you really can't rely on it just because you're in the gym lifting heavy weights, or you're at home doing your workouts and you're doing some even kettlebell stuff, whatever your exercise is. You can't actually use that as a way to just let your diet be whatever it wants if you have goals of weight loss and fat loss and body composition goals. So the only real way that you again will actually manage your weight and manage the energy that you do use on a daily basis is how much we move. And we talk about that, and a lot of people is quite commonly talk about it in terms of steps, because it's quite popular now to have fitness trackers or have apps on your phone. There's like 19.1 million users of Fitbits in the world, so that's quite a lot. So pretty much everybody's got one these days. So we always like to think about how active we are, how many steps we have, and maybe you set yourself a target for that. A great way for people who are don't move a lot and maybe have fallen out of any sort of habits, then the baseline that you want to start at is hitting 4,000 steps a day. So there's always this golden number of 10,000 steps that everybody aims for, but it's not actually necessary for everybody, providing that you manage your diet. Can be for some people, but it's not realistic for everybody. And maybe you don't have a 10,000 route that you can take from your house right now and that is safe for you and get back home. So, but to move out of what we call the sedentary category, you've got to hit a minimum of 4,000 steps per day. So from about 4,000 to 6,000, then from 6,000 to 8, you're getting into someone who's a bit more active, and then 8,000 up to 10, slightly more active again, and then 10 plus, then you're into someone who's just really active. So that's just to give you a bit of a range of where you can aim for and start to maybe set targets for yourself if that's what you want to do and you want to actually get to be more active, basically. So just to help you out in terms of weight management and fitness as well. So it's a really great way to get a baseline fitness into yourself. So, but as one thing that we'll come to, and at the end of the day, it's always you've got to really enjoy what you're doing. If it's always going to feel like punishment, if it's always going to feel like torture, I can assure you will not last that long doing it. So it's really important to find a way that you love, and find it at a frequency and a level for yourself as well. So if you feel that you've got to do a workout and it's going to hurt you at the end of the day, or it's going to hurt you at the end of it, or you're going to feel, or you think that you're going to feel sick at the end of it, that it's not going to be something that you're going to sustain for very long. So, and absolutely. So, do really find a way that you love. Not everyone needs to do HIIT sessions. Not everyone needs to go into beast mode. If anything, the more controlled, the slower movements actually helps your joints, helps your muscles a hell of a lot more, and prevent you from injuring yourself as well. So really do think about it. Are you at risk of hurting yourself if you try and push yourself too hard, too quickly? And that's one thing. So
totally agree. No burpees, people. No burpees.
No.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you. My favorite.
Yeah. Okay. We're huge advocates of sleep, Greg, aren't we?
Yeah. Look, the parents are asleep, the baby's asleep.
Yeah. I'm not sure how real that picture is, though, but
It does happen. It does happen. So one of the underrated things about health, wellness, fitness is sleep. It often gets on the back burner after nutrition, diet, and then exercise, but sleep is so massive for your health in general. And there's studies that show that, even from a fitness point of view, people that are sleep deprived have lower performance. So, if you're not well rested, you're gonna have low performance. And there's a interesting fact. They did a study with people who got less than 6 hours of sleep, and they measured the amount of food that they ate the next day, and they actually had 400 more calories a day when they were sleep deprived by having less than 6 hours sleep. And in a world where we are glued to screens like you are now, and we've had this pandemic and all of that stuff, getting good quality sleep is probably the biggest thing you can do for your health, from a recovery, a hormonal aspect as well. Sleep is just like the hidden fountain of youth. But obviously you want good quality sleep. For most people, they sit between a 6.5 hour to 8 hour window sleep. Some people are okay on the bottom end, some people are okay on the top end, some people are also in the middle. But good quality, consistent sleep is massive. And I think we just forget about it. It's, I'll watch another Netflix, or I'll watch another episode of whatever, or I'll go and do this, I'll go and clean up, etc. But actually sleep makes everything better. The next day just becomes much more functional. And you just perform better at work, at play, in relationships. You don't argue with people, you don't eat silly food when you've had a good sleep. So sleep's massive, people. Make sure you get your sleep sorted. So one of the big things I just really wanted to talk about was just creating a sleep environment. I firmly believe your bedroom should be for two things and two things only. One of them is sleep.
What's the other, Greg?
Okay, 2 S's, sleep and sex. There you go, people. So it should be a nice, cozy environment that you're going to relax to the max in. I like that, relax to the max.
Relax to the max.
Oh, right. Let's remember that for the podcast.
Yeah.
So it's going to be nice and calming. So you want calming colors. You want to make the room as dark as possible. Yeah. So you don't want any light from the lights on the road, etc. So blackout curtains are awesome for this, or blackout blinds. And then you don't want to have any distractions. So your TV, get it out. One of the best decisions I ever made a few years back was putting my TV back behind me and taking it out of my bedroom. It's just, I just feel so much better for it. I sleep more and have much more energy from it. Keep your phone out of the room, or if you need it for an alarm, keep it on the other side of the room. I think it's such a massive one. It's so easy to be up in bed and just, I wonder what's happening on Facebook. So these screens can get you. So really reduce that electronic use at night. And one of the big things I think people need to be aware of is all that light stimulates your brain. There's a gland in your brain, the pineal gland, and it says, oh, Greg's awake because he's looking at a light. There's a light source going through the eyes. So let's make sure we produce more cortisol. Cortisol says, oh, you're up. Let's get some more energy. Oh, guess what? You're down in the fridge before you know it. Or whatever is in the fridge. You're like, yeah, I want some, I don't know, some cake that I made, some banana cake, because everyone's making banana cake. I don't know. It's like banana cake central, isn't it? So yeah, so leave that. So make that sleep environment. I think it's massive. Reduce that electronic use late at night. So, I'm in the habit now of cutting down the TV. I have set times in my day now where I binge watch my stuff if I want to binge watch, but I try not to do so much at night. And it just has such an impact. And then you create this routine where you go to sleep pretty much same time every night, and you then also wake up at the same time. So there was another study done where people obviously slept in, because the weekend, right, is for sleeping in. Sleeping on the weekends, that's what we do. But they actually felt more fatigued when they stayed in bed longer than they did in the week. So try and make that whole week as static as possible. Bed same time. Yeah. Obviously people are going to go out and do stuff on the weekend. I get that. But at least try and get up at the same time every day.
Yeah.
Big one, caffeine and alcohol. So we love a bit of tea and a bit of caffeine and a bit of coffee. Let's try and keep it to before 4 o'clock at least. So scary thought for people that the caffeine is circulating in your blood for up to 4 hours, if I remember rightly. So try and keep caffeine for earlier in the day if you need to have it. And alcohol is a massive inhibitor of sleep, causes sleep to not be as heavy and as deep. So yeah, remove, just try and temper where you take your alcohol and how much of it you have. Obviously for some people it knocks them out, but then the next morning what happens is they want to eat everything in the world, right? It's like, I've had too much to drink, now I'm up and I'm hungry and I want bacon and egg sandwiches with lashings of butter and everything else. So as I alluded to earlier, if your sleep isn't great, then appetite and everything else becomes affected. So yeah, it's a really big one for me. What do you think about it?
Yeah, and it's, as much as people don't want to be told not to drink and not to have alcohol, because it's obviously a huge part of society anyhow, but there is such a thing as social jet lag. I've seen that terminology at the weekend, because and I get into this routine, you get into that steady routine of sleep during the week, and then it gets to the weekend, like you said, Greg, with you sleeping in at the weekend, you're staying up a bit later, and you're probably drinking more alcohol than you do. So that whole cauldron of factors just basically messes up your sleep pattern again, and then you feel like there is a misconception that you just catching up on your sleep, but you never actually do. You lose it. Once it's gone, and there's no catching up. It's just that you then get into a routine again. So it's basically like jet lag. You're just waiting to catch up in your time zones again. So that's why we all wake up feeling really groggy on a Monday morning if we've had maybe a Saturday night, we've stayed up a bit later, had a few drinks and so on and so forth. So it really does inhibit it. And as much as I wouldn't tell people not to drink, but basically the best thing is probably to drink earlier in the day than what you do if it is affecting your sleep. So, but at the same time, you've got to stop and think, if your sleep is really affected, if it's impacting other areas of your life, if it's impacting how you work or your productivity, and you're also drinking quite heavily, then I would say you'd need to maybe have an honest word with yourself about what it is that you need to adjust there, and look at alcohol as one way. It's referred to as liquid, they're liquid stress effectively. So they really do impact the health, our immune systems, our stress levels in our bodies as well. So and also as well, it lowers our inhibition, so it just really dries up our appetite as well whenever we do have a few drinks. Yourself, if you're sitting down, those munchies do kick in eventually. Whenever you're sitting having a few drinks.
The kebab shop after you've been to the restaurant.
Yeah. On that way home, yeah.
On the way home, like 4,000 calories and you don't even realize it. It's quite scary, right?
Yeah. And you were talking about a big factor that is when you got the TV out of your room, Greg. I've never actually had a TV in my room, but one thing that I do for myself that has had a huge impact on me getting to sleep and being able to rest is I switch my phone off an hour before I go to bed. I
Nice.
do use it to set my alarm, but I literally switch it off, because as much as people maybe fret, you can try it out yourself. You can set your alarm for like 1 minute away, but if you switch off your phone, it does come back on. It will always come back on when the alarm goes off. And I've had people thinking that it won't, but it does. That's what phones will do. So it sounds simple, and as well, it just stops me from like that, just aimlessly just scrolling and, oh, I'll just search for something, or I'll start shopping online, or there's always something that you can just feel it there, that you just think, oh, it's bound to be a reason I need to look at my phone.
Let me just check. Let me just check.
Yeah, there's always that little WhatsApp message that you just want to wait for a reply on. But so yeah, it's just been it's always the easy things, like it there's nothing difficult about doing that, but it's just, again, it's just telling yourself to do it. And at that point then it's an hour, I feel totally relaxed going to bed, and I'll sit and read for a bit, and then it's just have such a, I actually just fall asleep then.
Yeah.
10-15 minutes, that's a good indication as well. If it takes you about 10-15 minutes for most people to fall asleep, anything faster, you're probably overtired and you've not had a good night's sleep, maybe the night before, the couple of nights before that, whatever. If it takes you too long, then you're not in a stage of where you can fall asleep, and it's probably best you get up and go do something else to try and relax you to actually fall asleep, if you like. So,
But if you're lying in bed watching the ceiling, there's a good chance you need to get out of bed before you associate. It's the bed non-sleep.
Never stay in bed. Yeah. Never stay.
So awesome.
Yeah, cool.
So mindset. This is yours.
Yeah. So, well, mindset's a big one, and I suppose maybe on reflection, I probably would have put this probably at the start, because absolutely whatever's going on in our mind. So the internal environment is always the first part of what we do on the outside. So whatever we're thinking, that's translate into what we're doing. And whenever it comes to behavior change, it comes down to, we have built-in habits, processes, routines, whatever you want to call it. There's things that are just wired in our brains that we can do subconsciously, so they're automatic, that we don't even know and we're aware of. But then there's also conscious things that we are aware of that we do, and they are what shape our lives and shape what we do every day. And also, focusing more on health and fitness shapes what we eat every day, shapes what what exercise we do every day, so on and so forth. So in order to change something on the external of our lives, if you want to change something about your health, your body, your fitness, then it's got to be a rewiring of habits in your head. Process, you got to think of it like your brain's the supercomputer, isn't it? It's the hard drive basically of a PC.
Definitely.
You've got the motherboard inside, that it's got all the connections and all that are all soldered together, that tell one thing to the next what you're going to do. And that's essentially what's happening in our brains all the time, so in the subconscious brain. So in order for us then to do that, we've got to be conscious. We've got to bring what's the unconscious habits into the conscious, basically, in order to change them. So there will be things, I always liken this to things that we do, like brushing your teeth. So brushing your teeth, you don't even think about it now. Now, whenever you were younger, it was really hard for you to brush your teeth, because you just didn't have the understanding to know why. You were just being told to do something, and you're like, oh, I don't want to do it. You're just telling me that I have to do this. But there was no real understanding why. As we get older and we can educate ourselves, and we understand now, obviously in terms of our gum health and our teeth and, oral health and things like that, that's why we brush our teeth, we floss our teeth, and so on and so forth. And as well, now as we get older, we feel better. We like the freshness in our mouth when we brush our teeth. We like that feeling of cleanness, that minty freshness that we love. So there's all those rewards that we get now with it. So it becomes a habit because of that emotion. We know how good it feels. So it's the same when it comes to other habits in our lives. We've got to be able to find what the emotional enjoyment is of those habits for ourselves, and that's how we build it into our daily lives, and that's how we change from one habit to another. So big misconception is that we've got to break habits. So habits are not there to be broken. We talk about habits as if that's almost setting the wrong expectation for it, that we've got to force things, that we've got to almost battle with a habit in order to change it. I like to talk about habits and our routines as, imagine fairy lights. So imagine you've got a big bunch of fairy lights, at Christmas time, you've got to unravel them, okay? And that's effectively what you've got to do. You've got to unpick the habits that you have, and then how you can change it and bring them into new habits then, and reform them in some way. So you don't go in, you don't force them, you don't pull the lights apart, the fairy lights. You go to the end and you pick off the easy bits one by one. So, and that's how we do it with habits as well. So we start off with what's simple for us, what's easy for us to, to win, if you like. What's an easy success? And by then building up easy successes, we create a little bit of momentum. We feel good because we're winning and we're succeeding, and that creates confidence. That knocks on our motivation and lights up our motivation, and we can build on that and grow on that. And that's effectively what we need to do, so in order to have those habits. So one way that I talk about this, for example, if you were looking to maybe drink more water, there's kind of 3 steps to really how you could go around drinking more water and how to break down that habit. You want to drink water. Everyone tells you, you hear it a lot, that we need to keep hydrated. It's really good for our bodies. It's good for our mind, our cognitive function. We stay alert. You have those kind of feelings whenever you've got mild dehydration kicking in, you're feeling a bit lethargic and a bit tired, and you just don't feel like doing anything. But in order for us, instead of us getting to that stage before we'll do something about it, try and build in some habits of drinking water on a regular basis throughout the day. That was it, man.
Simplicity, right?
Yeah. So, but how we actually do that though is being able to, one, break the habit really down into something small. So instead of thinking, I've got to drink 2 liters of water today, you're sitting there with a big 2-liter vat of water. Well, how can I just go about, maybe I'll just start off with a glass of water. So that's why starting maybe with the day, starting in the morning with a glass of water, will really start you off in that momentum. You've already achieved something first thing in the morning, particularly then because our bodies really need some water at that point, because we're at our most dehydrated first thing in the morning. So, but also as well is to associate it with something that you already do. So the other thing could be, as soon as you come down maybe to the kitchen in the morning, first thing you probably do is put the kettle on to make a cup of coffee or tea. I know I make coffee. So every time you're waiting for the kettle to boil, is to drink some water, so that you're building in an association with something that you do automatically. So I don't even think about putting the kettle on in the morning. It just happens. It just happens. It's the first thing I do. So now I've built in that I'm going to drink water every time I boil the kettle. So then I'm making that association. The other thing is to then feel the emotion of when I've done that, and like, oh yeah, I've drank the water. Nice one, that works. Brilliant. And you feel good about yourself. So you've got to acknowledge that feel good, that win for yourself. You've got to either talk about it. Maybe you want to write it down as well. I know it sounds maybe a bit weird doing that, a bit silly doing that, but actually acknowledge it and make a note of it, that you've done it. And that's really how we kind of build in those habits and make it easy. So that's why we always talk about making things easy as possible in order to win. It may be not, it maybe takes a longer time, but that's really what sustainability is like, building in that groundwork, isn't it?
To stay stuck, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why people get frustrated. They go, oh, I started a new diet 2 weeks ago and I've given up already. Well, it's because we don't go through that longer process of building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've
That's
had it before, people come and going, right, I'm gonna, nail all these workouts, I'm gonna hit all this, these calories, I'm gonna track all this food. And you've had that. It's just to move away from that all or nothing attitude, because when you're starting something new, starting a new fitness program or nutrition program, if you want to get into that, or transformation programs as we like to call them, when you start something new like that, your motivation is really high. You're excited. You really want to get into it. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna change everything, my life's gonna be amazing, I'm gonna love it. However, that real high doesn't last. So you've got to think about what do I do when that goes? So it's always whenever you're really high on motivation at that point, at the start of a new thing, you want to conquer everything. You feel you've got the energy, you want to achieve everything all at once. But actually, that's kind of setting yourself up for failure, because you're going to get frustrated because maybe 2 weeks into a new program, you're realizing that you haven't got that motivation to do that. You haven't got that energy, that real buzz to actually do that anymore. And you will get frustrated, and then you will start to feel like you've failed in some way and feel that you can't do this. And that's what we're trying to avoid. We want you to start off a bit slower, build in the habits, create the momentum, feel successful, and then you can build in more and build in more as the time goes on. So however, not everyone can do that. And, that's why Greg and I talk a lot about behavior change, in fitness, in nutrition and mindset as well. So, from a coaching perspective, that's what we do. We help people to kind of identify the gaps where they are and why maybe things haven't worked for them in the past before. We help diagnose the problems to, in essence, basically and we start to then come up with a new solution for them, and how we can actually get them to where they want to be without falling for those obstacles and those traps before, over again. Because that's probably what's happened time and time again. Jumped onto something new, but we haven't addressed the fundamentals of where your head's at and why things haven't worked for you in the past. So that's where we kind of, Greg and I, step in, and that's our role, is to help people, let them kind of guide them along in that path, let them come up with their own answers. We're not there to spoon feed people. That's not how that works, because at the end of the day, we're all grown adults and we need to be able to make our own decisions about what we want to do. So having someone telling you what to do doesn't actually lend itself to that. So we start to help you, guide you along. The guide's on the side, guide you along and fill in those gaps for you, really. So
yeah, awesome. So yeah, I really hope everyone has got some value from this. We try to keep it simple because we believe that it should be simple, but the world makes things like this complex. So here's how we work things. This is just an example of some of our clients that we've got worked with in the past about how we've got them some awesome results, all by laying out those steps, keeping them accountable, and having a plan. Yeah, so that's what happens. So just, hey, that's what we do. That's what we do.
Absolutely. People want to transform their bodies at the end of the day, and big part of it. So
yeah, that's what we do.
So we've put our social handles up here as well for anyone that wants to find out more about us and what we do. I know even on the event page, I think as well, there's our bios as well on the website anyhow, that people can find out how to connect with us. Also, as well as our podcast that we have, is the Fit and Fabulous podcast that Greg and I release an episode every week on that. So do check us out on Spotify, iTunes, and all the other usual podcast
outlets. Yeah.
Sites, I guess. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this, and talk soon, hopefully.
Cool.
All right.
All the best, guys. See you then.
Bye.
All right.